Impact Missions, where innovation and purpose meet. Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast Impact Missions. In today's episode, I'm very happy to welcome Florence Perramond. And as you can see, we are in a different studio. This is the apartment of Florence. Thanks a lot for having us in your very beautiful apartment on this great day. And Florence is the founder of Avenue Advisory, her own consulting firm supporting startups and investors at the intersection of impact, capital, and innovation. What we like to see in this podcast very much. Florence founded this company last year in September after years of experience in the venture capital space, having worked at the Blue Earth Capital in the fundraising team and at Planet First Partners as an associate. Florence has experience with business angel groups since the age of 16, so already since very early on. And with degrees from Henley Business School and Imperial College London Business School, she has great experience in climate change management and finance. And this is all what we will unpack in this episode. So how are you doing, Florence? Thanks a lot for inviting us to your lovely apartment.
Thank you. No, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Honestly, very excited and happy to host you here. And being part of this podcast is really exciting. So I'm excited for the discussion.
Yeah, me too. And I hope our listeners as well. And I just wanted to ask you, how has your year started? I think it's a busy time right at the get-go of your company. So I assume a pretty busy start.
Yeah, no, definitely really busy. I think the heavy lifting on the admin side was last year, luckily. And at the beginning of the year, really focusing on building those partnerships, understanding a little bit the demand out there, what the clients need, and how to also just shape my business and my offering. And so it's been great to spend some time at the beginning of the year doing that, but definitely step by step, work in progress. That's good.
Work in progress. And I think that now you can get in the interesting meat of the work, which is working with clients. But we will unpack all that during the episode. But before that, I wanted to think a little bit, understand your journey, which is very interesting for me. You have been born and raised here in Switzerland. However, already for international baccalaureate, you went to the UK to study in the boarding school, and then you stayed there for your bachelor's and master's. But tell me, what has motivated you to go to the UK so early on already for your baccalaureate?
Yeah, no, great question. I actually realized that high school in Switzerland was not really for me. I started and I picked topics that were really not for me, chemistry and all that, and realized, okay, I need to change it up. I'm gonna go to the UK and learn English for 6 months and come back. I ended up staying for 2.5 years. So I did my international baccalaureate there, as you mentioned, and I really liked it. So the UK system was right for me. So that's a little bit how I ended up in the UK.
Yeah, it's different. It's funny because I also came here for 1 year and I've been here for 10. And so these are the classic stories.
Exactly.
But then, what is interesting for me is that during your baccalaureate, you were at the boarding school, right? You will stay there, live there. I think that most of us know about boarding school from Harry Potter. So what was the experience like to be in the boarding school?
Yeah, look, it was great to learn to also be independent as part of a very structured environment. People they all had their special story from all over the world. Just being this group of people was great, and the number of activities that you could have is just endless. And I think that was a real chance. And I also just developed as a person a lot by being there, and obviously the support and the ecosystem was very collaborative for you to also do well. So that was something that I really liked.
Very good. And what do you think were the main lessons that it has taught you? Like maybe resilience, independence, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, resilience definitely, because you are away from your comfort zone. So at the start, the language barrier, the cultural barrier, like there's a lot, but at the same time, you're all on the same boat. So you learn together and you grow together. And so I think that was yeah, that was definitely a really positive aspect, but definitely helped me to become more solution oriented, service oriented. We had a lot of community work and volunteering work from the start. And so I
Yes.
think that was also great. And going a little bit beyond the academic side of it,
Yes.
really more well rounded with lots of different activities that you
Mm-hmm.
can do.
It reminds me a little bit of my stays when I was a teenager. I would always go in summer to study English or German abroad, but I was there for 3 to 4 weeks. But it was a similar experience, so you just had it amplified and extended.
Yeah.
Very good. And then this motivated you to stay in the UK for your bachelor and master studies, to study business and marketing. So, what was the main driver? Maybe since you were already there, but what was the driver to study these particular courses or these particular focal points for a bachelor and masters?
Yeah, look, I think like a lot of people at the end of high school, you wonder a little bit, okay, where do I go now, right? And for me, I always knew that I was interested in business in general and strategy and understanding how companies work, but I didn't really know, okay, what does that translate to then? And there I need to give some credit to my parents because they were really a source of inspiration, but also guiding me in like answering all of these questions. And in the end, I realized, yeah, if I study business and management, I open as many doors as possible. And I think that was important to me when I wasn't exactly sure where to specialize. And then it gave me then time to then decide, okay, in your master's, you can then specialize. And that's what ended up happening.
Yeah. And I think it's good that you have pointed out the support system from your parents, right? I think a lot of people do not recognize it, right? But we are very privileged to be coming from a supported environment so that we could have realized these goals of ours or progress in the career while others would have to already start working, for example, instead of the studies. So I'm also very grateful. Everyone should be grateful to their parents. Very good. And there you have focused mainly on climate finance, clean tech investment, and climate change adaptation and mitigation. So, first of all, what has motivated you to focus on these particular focal points?
Yeah, I think exactly between my bachelor's and my master's, I had 2 years in the end to kind of decide exactly where I want to specialize into, which was actually a good thing because I felt at first that it was like delayed, like specialization, but it was good. I matured into it and I decided, okay, then I'm going to make the decision more like with time and having like thought about it more. And this is when I realized, okay, looking at everything that's going on in business, in finance, where do I see myself? And I think that's conviction that I had within the whole space of sustainability and the environment was there since my bachelor's. And it was just a question of how is that going to sort of translates into my professional career. And I saw this master's in climate change and finance, and I felt this was ideal for me. And so I worked into startups between my bachelor's and my master's, and then all of these thoughts evolved. And then I applied the first time around, and interestingly enough, actually got rejected for the program. And I applied again the year later, and it worked out. So that's a little bit the process. And yeah, I think it was really that I saw that the modules were very much at the intersection of finance and the science, because Imperial College is such a scientific university. And I think that was then exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah. Interesting also that you were rejected for the first time and then you persevered, right? That's really the resilience and kind of not having no to define your future, right? So not taking no as an answer. That's very good. And can you tell us really what climate finance is? It is a very generic term, maybe also very hyped up term. So what, like in a nutshell, maybe so that everyone can understand. But what is actually climate finance?
Yeah, no, look, really good question, because there are lots of misconceptions and lots of definitions, and it can be a little bit confusing, right? But I think the main thing that you need to know is that it's really about redirecting capital or allocating new capital into solutions that either reduce carbon emissions or help adapt to existing climate change that is happening and affecting us today, right?
Yes.
So there's lots of definitions out there, right? Like the UN has a specific climate change sort of framework side to it, which looks at defining it. The GIN, that is more looking at impact investing in general, has a definition on that. And the EU itself has a taxonomy, it has frameworks. So we're trying to get a standardization there, but I think the main idea is to really think, okay, the financing flow is really looking at generating a positive impact for the planet. And then the whole aspect is to say, okay, the financial returns, like what is the priority there? And now looking into, okay, actually, you can redirect this capital while like not sacrificing on your financial returns, and like the interesting conversation that's also evolving from it.
Yes.
But yeah, and then we talk a lot on different shades of green, meaning like the lighter green is more what was initially so like ESG exclusion, so excluding some sectors that do harm on the planet and saying we will not take part in these topics. Then you're more on the lighter green side of climate finance, and then you go to darker greens where you say actually my products are generating a measurable positive impact on the planet, right? By looking at companies that do good and that you can like properly measure that and then report on it.
Yes, and this is exactly what was criticized very often for the EU taxonomy, right? Because they are they were also saying there are some political influences for adding something, not adding other stuff, and then massive discussion about nuclear, right? Is it impactful? Is it not? So all of these exactly like shades of green, because at the end of the day, it is not so like hard cut what can clarify as still impact or climate finance, or because at the end, and we will get to it, we have to see like change the view of what climate finance is, in my view, so that we can better direct the capital in the impactful sectors rather than think, okay, is it climate? I would redirect the question, is it impactful? But we will get to it. And then, so do you think it is a well understood sector already, or it is still are there still some prejudices or misconceptions what climate finance is?
Yeah, no, I think people would say yes, it's well understood, and now it's been many years since we've started talking about this and understanding the science and understanding how the economics sort of work there, but there are still misconceptions because overall in the financial system, for example, the cost of inaction, which we've often talked about, is not being calculated in a way that makes sense to really show the importance of climate finance, and then just the economic impact as well. There is just I think not really well understood yet. So I think it's really about making sense of where is the economic opportunity, and the fact that exactly it's not like a niche, it can englobe like so many different things, right?
Yeah.
So definitely yes, there are still misconceptions, but I think we're all getting smarter, and it's about working with the right partners who understand and who can also then guide investors in the right direction.
And where do you think is there a bigger impact? Is it within the private markets or then within the public sector? Or why is there maybe what can be also done more to funnel more money in the sector, but in a sense where can be the biggest game changer in this sense?
No, look, that's a really good point, and I think a little interesting number here, because so when we say climate finance, it's both actually public markets, private markets, is everything, right? So that's like your green bonds, but then also your private equity funds.
Yes.
And my area is more on the private market side, and so there I think, it's representing only 10% of climate finance today. So there's definitely a need to increase that percentage. But I think more capital will flow within climate finance, which will make this percentage more important as well, as it is. But yeah, so interesting to make the differentiation here, because a lot of people, when they talk about sustainability and climate finance,
Mm-hmm.
and the companies that say that they're very involved, it might oftentimes be companies that are publicly listed, so within the public markets, right?
Yes.
But I think in private markets is very interesting because you have much more, you have a tangible and measurable sort of outcome to your
Mm-hmm.
investments, and you're either investing directly in a company.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking of business angels do that.
Yes.
And then, well, investors can do it directly as well when they want to support scale ups at the later stage. But then it also includes all the funds, so private equity and private debt
Mm-hmm.
funds who invest themselves into the companies and are looking to for investors to invest into their
Mm-hmm.
funds. And I think there, yeah, the impact is clear and it's tangible, and to me, that's where you can really move the needle and be catalytic in
Very
helping
good.
those companies scale
Okay.
and see an impact today, because right, we need solutions today.
Yes. So just to clarify for listeners who are not so well versed in
Mm,
the business angel investment space,
mm,
so private markets are really companies that are not listed publicly, and therefore if you are investing, there are different stages. You can clarify that. I know a little bit, not as much as
yeah.
Florence. Uh, you can invest in these different stages,
Mm-hmm.
and then you purchase a share of the company or equity, or you provide them a debt, or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just like one-on-one on
Yeah.
private equity investment. If you
Yeah.
can give to our listeners.
Yeah, no, I mean, you mentioned it, and then you summarized it really well. It's really about, yeah, when you're looking at a specific company, you're taking a stake into the company and you're helping them long term, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're helping them all the way to an exit, and an exit can be a strategic acquisition by someone in the industry, like a larger company, or it can be a merger with a different company,
Mm-hmm.
or it can be actually getting publicly listed
Yes.
on the stock market, right? So so that means that it's more of a long term, and then it's more intentional because your investors are understanding that they
Yes.
need to follow the journey with you and help you, because everyone has an incentive for it to go well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, that's why I feel like the impact is more tangible and more what we call additional, meaning that, like, if that investor hadn't invested into this company wouldn't be where it is today
Yes.
without them. And that aspect of additionality we don't really see in public markets as much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can buy or sell a stock and you don't really have
Ownership or
ownership, or yeah, I mean, you can there are levels to that, but it's definitely not the same thing.
So, in a sense, through investment in a startup, like the startup world is very famous, or in small companies, startups, you can have a bigger impact beyond the financial investment, right? Because especially if you are choosing companies that are of your interest or of the
Mm-hmm.
area that you understand, you can guide them exactly, you can help them grow, you can share your own experience. So in a sense, what I'm also hearing from other angel investors is that it is the involvement is beyond just the financial investment,
Yeah.
so you as a person and investor can have an impact as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly that. Exactly that. I think that's what's really powerful. And that's what a lot of investors are actually looking to do.
Mm.
They want to their impact to be beyond just the money they put in or where they put it. They want to be a part of the team in
Mm.
helping it grow, because the more you help a company that does good scale, then the larger the impact, right?
Yes.
So it really makes sense.
Yeah, very good. And if you think about the areas in which, like, what are the trends right now in
Mm.
climate finance? What are the areas which the startups tackle the most? And maybe even like regions, like we talk about Europe, US, Asia. So, where do you see the biggest growth in terms of, yeah,
Mm.
areas and regions?
Yeah, I mean, like we said earlier, climate is impacts every sector. So, so in a sense, that makes it super relevant. But look, to me, it's about energy,
Mm-hmm.
because we know that for a while, but specifically now in the past few days, energy
Mm.
security, energy independence, also, providing stable prices, it impacts your whole economy. It impacts every sector within your
Mm-hmm.
economy. And so, if you really look at energy and the energy transition, I think this is where sort of the core starts. And then from there, then you can say, well, electrification is actually a big part of that. Because the more you electrify, then you also diversify your sources of power and it's just becoming an interesting way to also create independence and resilience, but also then turn to more sustainable sources. And that links to then battery storage.
Yes.
I think that's a really key one that we're seeing. And the second really big bucket is obviously food security and agriculture, and understanding how to really stabilize the whole agriculture system that is changing and that is really put under stress due to climate change. And so finding sustainable alternatives and more like a local ways of dealing with agriculture and food needs is going to be a huge topic.
Yeah,
I can go into more. There's a lot more, but I think these are the real
two
big ones.
focal points.
Yeah.
And you just you really talk to the choir, because firstly I have been working on these topics for the past 5 years with my company, also at the intersection energy, agriculture, and the critical minerals that are necessary to underpin that. And really I think, and I have my other guest Xenia, the founder of a battery recycling startup that will come after this was great because you were talking about battery storage. She also mentioned that at the end it's about energy sources and how we source our energy. The wars that we are seeing, it's all about energy security and security as a result as such. So I think exactly like climate finance, we have to forget it from we shouldn't see it from the niche perspective. It is really core of our economic activity that is also influencing the whole economy as we see right now, which is in a mess. So really this is, and I'm happy that you have underpinned it, because very often these are seen as two separate areas, whereas it is one. And this really leads me to the last two questions in this area, which is first, is there enough finance coming to the climate space right now, and is there enough liquidity, or is it more, so is there not enough, or is it wrongly allocated? And what would it need for the funding to increase?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. I'm pretty clear on that. It's not a question of volume to me. It's really a question of exactly what you said, allocating it in the right way and in an efficient way. I think we just need to understand that the flow that needs to happen, it needs to be guided well. And so that's where you see a little bit like some gaps, right?
Yes.
Into, okay, how are we going to reallocate it, and how do we understand actually all the advantages that it comes with? Because it's not about doing good for the planet at this stage. It's like we were saying, it's more about security, stability, and diversifying what you're already doing within your financial portfolio, and going a little bit beyond what you're traditionally looking at, which tends to be more focused on historical data and sort of a backwards looking view. And now it's about switching that to a forward looking view, taking into account climate risk, physical risks, and all of that, because it will have an impact on your results at the end, right? If you don't
on their portfolio. And again, Pascal, in the previous episode, he also said climate is the largest economic opportunity we have, and then regions such as Asia see it already like that, not politically, but more as a strategic lever. And finally, this is exactly what we talk about. So do you think it would help climate finance or directing the money in the right space if we then change the understanding? Is it helpful that we see it as a separate category, or would it be more helpful if we reframed it and said, well, this is economic investments, and we are investing in effective, efficient, and good ideas that have impact economic as well as for the planet? What would that be the better way? How better, more capital could be allocated that way?
Yeah, I think the big thing here is that investors may not have the time and the resources to sort of get properly educated on every aspect
Mm-hmm.
of climate finance, every aspect of the science behind it, and just keeping track of all of that. So that's the problem when you put it into a little bit of a bubble and you
Mm-hmm.
say it's a specialized type of investment. You say it's a little bit of a niche, and you don't see it as mainstream. I think
Yes.
moving it to mainstream, and a lot of people in the industry are also saying that and saying it shouldn't be that you have your impact team and you have the investment team. It should be one team, and that
Mm-hmm.
needs to then, what that looks like is retraining maybe your investment teams and your CIOs to really implement not only the climate risks of certain opportunities, but also all of the opportunities itself of looking at it and
Mm-hmm.
including it into your overall analysis and overview of your
Mm-hmm.
investment thesis, and really making it one. Because if you keep it separate, what you're doing is that you're actually losing out on a lot of those big investors who are
Mm-hmm.
used to investing in a specific way, and they've already put a label on
Yes.
sustainability, impact, climate,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, with everything that happened the past 10 years, like we know with ESG. So
Mm-hmm.
you're actually doing yourself a disfavor. It's more about the narrative and how you communicate about it. And
Mm-hmm.
exactly like you said, making sure you're bringing out the economic aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, all of the sectors that we've just talked about, they're not niche
Mm-hmm.
specific subtopics.
Yes.
Energy, agriculture, urban spaces. I mean, this is the core of our economy.
Mm-hmm.
So it shouldn't be regarded as a niche strategy,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Unfortunately, unfortunately, it has been like that. I see some change even in the discussion within corporates
Mm-hmm.
themselves, right? That
Mm-hmm.
sustainability teams should not be separate sustainability CSOs, but really
That's
part of the company. And this is exactly what you have also done in your work. So you have studied it and then you have implemented this
mm-hmm.
within your engagements in the venture capital space
Mm-hmm.
and also on the fundraising side
Mm-hmm.
in London and then back in Zurich
Mm-hmm.
within the Blue Earth Capital and the Planet First Partners.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, what then motivated you from your studies? Like, it's a natural move, of course, you continued in the area, but still, what motivated you to go to these particular companies and positions?
Yeah, I think after my master's, seeing exactly how the theory works and the intersection of finance and climate, and having the chance to also talk to a lot of people from the industry that were invited to the university to speak to us, that was really helpful in already sort of giving me a bit of a guide as to where I wanted to go. And after my studies, I had to first do an internship that was still a part of my master's, actually. And I found out about Planet First Partners, this VC, and I felt like it was exactly the right fit for me so that I could work across verticals within the climate space, understand how, the methods work within these kinds of investments, and then also work with lots of different companies. And I think that was, then the perfect sort of segue into that. And then looking at more the fundraising side, it was actually the opportunity to also work with impact beyond Europe, right? So looking at companies in emerging markets and developing countries, because then it's a whole new type of impact for me, right? Beyond climate, and also the fact that at Blue Capital we invested in the social aspect as well. So it just broadened my scope a little bit into what actually is impact investing. And again, being able to support companies in developing countries with it's a whole new type of impact, because you're talking about job creation, you're talking about financial inclusion, you're talking about economic growth. And so to me, then that's how it all sort of shaped together.
Yeah, this is very interesting because in these two separate yet very connected roles, you have seen it exactly from the different angles. You have seen the plurality of projects, also the plurality of the ESG or the impact that it can be. It reminds me a little bit also of the consulting career that a lot of my peers from HSG go to. They go to management consulting, but still, it's at first they see an overview of different companies, how they differently work, and then they implement it in their own venture. And before talking about that, I was thinking, because there's always a slight difference between the theory and then the practice. So I was just wondering what was for you the experience, like what you have all learned about climate finance, how it was then maybe different or more complex in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, the theory is great at teaching you the frameworks and giving you more confidence, and giving you this specialized knowledge. But then in the practice, you actually understand the reality and the size of the challenge. And that's exactly what I saw, where in practice, you actually need to work with all players in the industry, in your business. And yeah, the learning happens really in the room, when you're talking to investors, you're talking to founders, and you're trying to really then translate this understanding of the science of climate and the opportunities within finance, and bridging that. And it was really learning by doing and just being a part of it.
Yeah, I also do learning by doing, honestly. This podcast is the same question in terms of technology and everything. But then, and exactly, and this positions you very well to then launch your own company, a venue advisory. We have teased it a little bit at the beginning, touched upon it now, but can you tell us a bit more exactly what your role is and what the mission of your company is?
Yeah, exactly. Very excited to have launched it at the end of last year. The goal with Avenue was really to ensure that the capital is really flowing towards the right projects. So really looking at, okay, what are the funds trying to go into? What are the companies, how they're scaling, and what do they need? And they both need to raise capital, right? And then looking at the investor side, okay, they are interested in changing up the way they allocate it and understanding the importance of private markets and the importance of incorporating those impact aspects and metrics into their strategy. And then it's exactly helping them allocate it and sort of navigate this whole new scene, and being really the resource that they need, that they're missing maybe, to have the time to also then think about all of that.
Yeah, maybe really like you are a connector between the founders and the investors, and matchmaker in a sense, and matching the right investors with the right founders. Very good. And what has actually motivated you to launch your own company after working at great corporates or great paces? Like, what was the main driver to go on your own?
Yeah, look, I think many drivers, of course, some like push and pull factors that also guided me. Time was an important thing, and then just realizing that exactly having seen the investment side and the fundraising side, understanding this gap, and I just saw an opportunity to position myself as like you were saying a little bit, the connector, and specifically sitting more on the investor side, understanding what they're looking at and what they need, and all of the also the questions that they may ask themselves, or the key criteria that is really important to them, and answering that while also then allowing more to flow into the right direction, into more positive impacts.
Yeah, very good. And have you had any doubts, or what were the biggest challenges when you were launching the company? It's a big move. Like I did it 5 years ago, right? But then, yeah, what were the biggest challenges and doubts that maybe you were facing?
I think like the obvious ones of am I too early? Am I going to make it? What even am I, really doing? There's a lot of uncertainty, and I think it's about understanding where your strengths lie, and having this conviction, and that helps you kind of move past those doubts.
Yeah,
definitely.
And what has then really helped you to make the move finally? And were there any resources that you would recommend or that were missing in a sense when you were deciding to do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of support that you can seek out there, and the important thing is to, I mean, the obvious support is obviously your friends and
Mm.
family, and then also just the people that believed in you in your professional career so far. Having that strong network and key partners from the start is
Mm-hmm.
has been key for me. Having early partners and
Mm.
mentors that give you advice, also advice on timing, but also then knowing to follow your own intuition. I think at the same time you need to know where to delegate, and
Mm.
there are organizations in place to help you with, for example, the incorporation of your company, and it's good to actually know that and use it in your advantage, because again, your time is your biggest resource at the beginning of
Mm.
any kind of project like that. And so it's about being smart on how you use your time. But for me, yeah, the mentors and having the key partners
Mm.
make you also feel like you're not doing this alone, and this is key in also then launching into your actual work.
Yeah, and I think the network is really something critical because, in a sense, we know that you wouldn't have started in the first place, right? Because you already had a network of the companies that you knew, investors.
Mhm.
So you kind of are coming from
Mhm.
that space, right? Me too. Like I wouldn't have started without the network that
Sure.
I already had. And then if you just like we touch upon a little bit more in detail about the business. So who are your typical clients then?
Mhm.
Is it more the founders, more investors, both,
Mhm,
or?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, that was a big journey as well, and understanding where you really
Mm.
sit. And yeah, so primarily my clients are the investors. So typically looking at investors that have basically leaner teams.
Mm.
So your family offices, your smaller wealth managers, your smaller foundations, who know that private markets is a way to allocate their capital, but may not have exactly the resources and the time to look into it,
Mm.
or they already have an interest and they need also support on actually scaling that, or
Mm.
looking at new products, like what exists, what are the vehicles that I can
Mm.
use, and they don't have time to go
Mm.
over all of the deals that come their way. They have such an inbound
Mm.
of obviously all of the founders that are looking to raise, that would reach out to them, and it's about being the smart filter there. And a lot of investors, I think, miss out on interesting deals, but also are just a bit reactive to the
Mm.
market, instead of being a bit more proactive and saying, well, we've understood these trends, we've understood these subsectors, this is where we're going to want to go into, and we're doing it in a systematic way, in an institutionalized way.
Yes.
Because obviously you're huge investors, they're very institutional, they know how to structure that. But the investors that are a bit less institutional, maybe they're trying to be, and so they just need a little bit of support there.
Yes. So you are there basically external add-on support. And yes, and you can also, and this is what I also like working on my own, that you get like a closer relationship with your
Mm-hmm.
clients, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
can imagine that at first you start helping them with something and then you develop
Mm-hmm.
a relationship with
Yeah.
the particular fund, particular family office. So exactly, it's as we have touched upon at the beginning on the role of an angel investor, you have more of an ownership because
Mm-hmm.
you develop the relationship with the
Yeah.
particular client.
Yeah.
Very good. And so you have launched the company 6 months ago, half a year ago. So I assume so far you're happy with how it is going. And maybe I was a little bit thinking this section can also motivate some of you guys who are listening and thinking about launching your own venture. So
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to the listeners who are considering, okay, should I launch my startup, my advisory? What
Mm-hmm.
would your message to them be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, definitely yes. It's been an amazing experience, but also keeping your eyes open that it's not for everyone,
Mm.
and that's absolutely fine.
Mm.
And that's something that you also discover with time. But overall, if you're waiting to feel ready, you're never really going to do it. So you're never going to feel properly ready. And that's exactly why you surround yourself with the right people and the right support to also kind of guide you with more of an objective lens and say, yeah, I mean, you're never going to be truly ready, but you need to do it because you've thought about it and you know where you're going, and you're never going to know the end, results, but that's not the point, right?
Yeah.
It's about one step at a time and knowing that you're going in the right direction. And I've had really a lot of luck in being able to surround myself with professionals who really helped me and were a little bit the first people that I worked with, actually. And I think that's the main part.
Yeah, I think like I really resonate with this experience, right? Because this is something that I have experienced as well. And in general, I feel you never know where the journey will lead you. And at the end, the outcome is like there is no outcome because it's a continuous journey. And sometimes you end up in places you would have never thought of
Yeah.
at the first place. But it's about diligent work, and exactly it's challenging, definitely,
Mm.
but I think most of the founders that I talk to, at the end
Mhm.
it's always rewarding and they are
Mhm.
always happy that they have made the jump.
Yeah.
But it's a continuous work and it's work in progress,
Totally.
and you have ups and downs. Like even one up doesn't mean that there is not gonna come down later on,
Mhm.
but like it's about the mindset as
Yeah.
well, for sure.
Totally.
And since this podcast is called Impact Missions, I was wondering, if you think about your journey so far, it will continue, but so far, where do you see your biggest impact? Hasn't been within the corporate world, within our company, having your own company, or volunteering? We didn't go that much in detail in that. You have mentioned it that
Mhm.
already during your studies of baccalaureate in the UK, you have started volunteering.
Mhm.
So, where do you see that your biggest impact has been?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's very personal as well. It's going
Mm,
to look different for everyone, and I was lucky to dig into volunteering, community work, and then seeing that I can generate impact through my work as well, and that's what I decided to do. That's what felt right for me. But there are so many ways that you can have an impact in your life. But yeah, to me, it was clear that I wanted my career to be sort of the core of how I see the impact that I can generate. And so this is what it's been, but I'm continuing also to do other activities that to me have an impact, maybe also in a bit of a different way, more on the social angle,
mm.
the community side. But yeah, I mean, I'm lucky enough to be able to say that my job can be also where I see the impact.
Very good. And it's about also being consistent within all of our
Mm.
areas, right? Or kind of, yeah, we are active. Like even as I said at the name of my podcast, the impact is from the private, public,
Mhm.
work, professional life. So,
Mhm.
and we try to be consistent across them all,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
No, very good. I would love talking to you longer, but I think our time has come to rapid fire questions because our listeners already know I ask every guest of mine a set of questions. I think you're more than ready. Some of them take a bit more time, some of them are quicker, but I'll shoot. Very good. So, sweet or salty snacks?
Sweets, unfortunately.
Oh, fortunately, definitely. We need sugar. Hikes in mountains or valleys and forests?
Mountains.
Very good. Jogging or gym?
Gym.
Mm, I like both.
Yeah.
Last book read,
Last book read
or that
was
you're reading right now?
actually, I mean, The Count of Monte Cristo is one.
Very
More
good.
on more on that side, and also the Highly Sensitive Person that I highly recommend reading.
Okay,
Great
very
book.
good. I will note it down. A last podcast that you have listened to.
It would have to be the FT News briefing, actually.
Also
Every
important.
morning.
Every morning. That's good. It's good to set up some routines, right? What is the last impact startup or idea that caught your attention?
Mhm. I think a very exciting space is the power conversion for electrification,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that's a space that I see growing, and I see really cool startups in this
Ah,
space.
okay. So multiple, not only one. Very good. And
Mhm.
what has been your biggest mess up and how have you recovered from it?
Hmm, that's a really good one. Um, I think biggest mess up is just generally to wait longer and overthink, right? And not launch and diving to listening to your intuition more and intuition more. And that's what I'm working on. Definitely.
Yes, very good. And how do you define impact? What does impact mean to you?
So impact for me is a measurable positive change in the right direction that you can really quantify and that has clear outcomes.
Yeah, very good. Very well said. I couldn't have said it better. And what is your prediction for 2050? How will the world look like in 2050?
Right. So I don't know that I'm much of a super optimist. I think I'm more of a realist.
Yes.
So 2050 might seem gloomy then sometimes, but I have to say, with the direction that we're taking, and if we accelerate in this direction, especially with the energy transition, we are making sense of the economics of it. We can go really far. So it doesn't have to be so scary. The question is just how quickly are we actually gonna make those changes happen?
Yeah. And how proactive we will be in making these changes, right? Amazing. And I hope we will be proactive and we will be active, and with your help, more investors and founders will be. Thanks a lot for taking the time in your schedule to talk to us. It was a great discussion. I hope you have enjoyed it as well, and you have taken maybe some inspiration and a healthy dose of motivation for all your own ventures. Thanks a lot for listening and tuning in. If you liked it, feel free to follow and subscribe. We are on all of your favorite channels: Spotify, YouTube, Instagram. Feel free to share your comments or questions if you had any on Florence, on me. And yes, and I look forward to having you tune in the next time. And until then, have a great day. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye bye.